why. Your whole world is on fire. This is why. You can't drink from your own springs. This is why. This is why. This is why. Why? This is why y'all can't have nice things.
So your album has been out for almost, half a month, I guess. So what's it been like? It came out on what, October 30th, I believe, right?
I think that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I've been on the road, so it's we just wrapped up a 35-day tour, so just got home a couple days ago, and still sort of sorting things out. But
gotcha. Well, what's it like out on the road? Is it different than it was pre-pandemic?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there's some things that are timeless and will probably never change, but I think there's a lot of people that still aren't comfortable coming out yet.
Right.
So you lose a lot of folks that way, and then there's people protesting any sort of restrictions or whatever that or vaccination proof vaccination that some of the clubs require. So
yep.
between those two things, the crowds are not full steam yet, but the
right.
people that are showing up are having a good time, and I just try and control what I can, which is my show, and try and connect with the crowd.
Yep. That sounds like, and I've noticed also, I've been speaking to a lot of folks in the States. Some of the artists are reticent about playing out yet because they're a little nervous about mingling around the people. So there's that as well, I guess. So everybody's testing the waters.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of folks that I'm sure are not going out yet, and there's a lot of folks that tried and somebody got sick and they had to shut it down.
Yep.
But most of us, we lost our livelihood and for a year and a half, and a lot of the venues, and really everybody in the business. So it's a thing where I'm sure we'd all like to stay home and snug up, but we got to go out and do our jobs, and so I'm just grateful that we've had the opportunity to do that again, and that so far everybody's safe and sane. So right. That's a good start.
That's always a good thing. Yeah, because I know you've been to New Zealand. I saw you at I think it was the Tuning Fork 4 maybe 3 years ago. So do you have any memories of that? Is it a blur or what?
I remember that gig, yeah, and I remember running around town there and just having a lovely time. I want to go back, especially as the world gets crazier and crazier. I don't know how y'all feel about it there or how people feel about it, but I feel like there are a handful of places that just unconsciously everybody thinks of as, okay, they've got it together and everything is relatively cool there. Right. And New Zealand is one of those places. That may not be accurate or not, but I'm just saying that's the perception from.
As you were we're in lockdown at the moment because we were pretty much free and clear last year when everybody else was in lockdown. We locked down for a very short time and it was all fine. But then when the variant came around, we had one case and we locked down the country, and kind of easing our way out of it now and trying to find our way out. And of course, just like you said, there's people who are not happy about how things are being done, and they're anti-vax and they're convinced that it's all a conspiracy. So that's universal, it seems like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we just got to deal with it, I guess. But anyway, there you go. But so has any of what we've been talking about have any influence on what we hear on the new album?
Oh, maybe just a little bit. And as far as, I think this album, when I talk about it, I look back and think one of the themes that comes out to me is that a lot of songs about relationships, either, intimate marital relationships with family members, with the world at large, new love that is struggling.
Yep.
And then how we deal with people and the planet. So, I try personally to be humble in my take on things, because I know I have a lot to learn, and just because I think something or believe something doesn't mean I'm right.
Right.
I want to stay open to other people's perceptions and life experiences. And so I've got a song called Different Boats that's sort of about that. That we're all on this trip together, and of life, and it's judging other people's approach to that is not something that I'm a big fan of. It's hard not to sometimes when you see people doing things that feel dangerous or damaging to our collective psyche or our personal well-being. But I try to live and let live. And so on this record, a lot of the songs, I'm just trying to sort some stuff out for myself in a way maybe more intensely than I ever have before, or more consciously than I ever have before. For a number of years, I was content if it rhymed, and
I got you.
But these days, I'm a little more interested in figuring some things out for myself, and then crafting a song in a certain way to where other people can hopefully, whether they get something out of it or not, at least they'll get what I was trying to say, I hope.
Right. Because that's what I was thinking as you're saying, is like, that's great. You're learning these things on your own from writing these songs? How does that relate to the audience? And do you think what your audience is how they're going to relate to what you're writing? Well,
it's not so much that I think or try and control how they relate to it. I want to make sure I do the best job I can on my end with the work.
Right.
And then I can let it go confidently. There's been times in the past where I wrote songs and it just sort of kind of stumbled across the finish line. And maybe I just wanted to be done, or I wasn't sure what I had done. And so I put it out there, and on this record, I know what I was trying to do, and I know what I did. And I worked a bit more disciplined these days at making sure that my tools are sharp and I know how to use them, and not just relying on luck and inspiration. So I try and I approach the craft seriously, or at least more seriously than I did in my early days. And then I can let it go and not have regrets or second guess myself about a song. And that feels good. I'm tired of second guessing myself. And so I feel if I put a little more time in on the front end, I can cruise through the backside a little bit easier.
Seems to be a common theme these days. People are worried about overthinking everything. At some point you just have to kind of let it go and let it be. So
yeah, you control what you can control, and I can't control how other people respond to my songs. I can control how I write them though, and do the best job I can there. So
yeah. So when you get ready to record, for you, are mostly the songs done? Are they in a certain state of play, and you take it? You had Kenny Greenberg and Allison Moore producing, so when you brought it to them and you were in the studio, is there much messing around with the lyrics, with the music, or are they kind of the way they are?
Yeah, well, we did a little bit of pre-production, and I'm married to Allison, so yeah, I have an in-house.
I'm sure you get plenty of input
relationship with my producer. Yeah, and I'm friendly with Kenny. We're not that close, but
fair enough.
So most of the songs were mostly completed lyric wise and structurally, but there's always some burst of creativity or scrambling to finish something. That's a there's not that much difference sometimes. And when I'm in the studio, and also one of the things I love about the studio and making records is, as a writer, I feel like I have some control over what I'm writing lyrically.
Right.
But I'm not as confident as a musician. I'm a acoustic guitar player, a finger picker, and
gotcha.
With limited skills. And I have a hard time you know, I have a really short attention span. My reference points are pretty random and not very specific. And so I like getting in the studio with really creative people and who are talented and using their ideas and seeing what, you know, that's part of the reason why I wanted to work with Kenny and Allison was
right.
They're so creative and have such an ease with their references and knowing how to get those sounds. And they were just a really great team.
Right.
And so I was able to take a folk song or a country song and let them help me build it and turn it into something bigger or more sonically interesting.
Well, you mentioned different boats, and that's definitely one I have. It sounds like it grew sonically. I mean, there's like guitar solo. It almost sounds like a jam, like there's some stretching out going on with organ and all that. So how did that transform from when you brought it into what we hear on the record?
We're all headed to the same sea.
Well, I had something similar. I recorded a lot of these songs just as demos for I have a Patreon page, and
right.
and I release stuff through that and sort of the early stages of songs, which is cool for me to kind of flesh stuff out and try out ideas. And so I had something not all that different from it, but Kenny stretched out a bit playing the guitar and we just got a little funkier, you know, when I recorded it, the demo, I think it was just me and one other guy playing a bunch of instruments. And when we did the actual record, we have, you know, a room full of world-class players who all are contributing something. And so that one and The Way I Love You, there's a couple songs. My wife calls them drawstring country, which is sort of like a laid back, funky, bluesy country. It's like Jack Johnson meets somebody funkier than Jack Johnson. And so I like that term. And that's one of those songs where it's lyrically, it is what it is. And it just sort of sits in the pocket. So it's just finding what that musical pocket is to keep, to build around it.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Way I Love You, which is definitely funky, almost has a jazzy intro to it. But yet I think you kind of described the album as a country singer-songwriter album. So obviously your definition of country is wider than maybe a lot of other people's, because there's R&B, there's jazz, there's bluegrass, there's all that stuff. Americana, I guess is the
yeah. I mean, I think there's there's probably 3 or 4 songs on here that no one would probably on first listen say that's a country song. But there also are a lot of songs that I think people would undeniably say that's clearly a country song. And what I meant by that when I said that it was a country singer-songwriter record is the songs, whether they turned out sounding country or not, were written in large part being inspired by the country music I grew up listening to.
Right.
And there's there's one on there that's inspired by the Traveling Wilburys or Tom Petty, and there's some that's something different, but it's not that far from country. And then there's some things where I very clearly was saying, you know, I grew up listening to this Kenny Rogers record, and I want to see if I can create something like that. And so it was fun to lean into that in a way, maybe a little more than I ever had. And being here in Nashville as well, I live here full time now, and just getting to work with a lot of writers, a lot of great country writers. It felt more connected to that tradition, maybe than anything I've done in the past.
Right. And now going back to the country singer-songwriter thing, I just interviewed somebody named Emily Scott Robinson, who I don't know if you've ever heard
Oh
of.
boy. Well,
Right?
I
Exactly.
did recently
Oh boy.
she is. I'm sorry. I mean, that was just a coincidence.
Got it.
But no, her record came out on the same day mine did.
Right.
And I went and listened to it, and boy, I mean, I want people to buy my record, but
I'm both.
but yeah, if you got the budget, go check that one out. I'm blown away by her. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, well, she's on John Prine's label. It was kind of it's her first time for this thing, and you get compared to John Prine quite often. I've been reading the reviews and stuff. He comes up some, wondering if you feel some kind of connection to what he has done. Obviously, he's one of the greats. And,
oh yeah. There are people that earlier on in the career inspired me to sing and to be a songwriter long before I ever discovered John.
Right.
But as far as the people that I most felt connected to and what my skill set and my point of view was, I think he's probably at the top of the list. He and Lyle Lovett.
Right.
We're two people who were able to use humor really effectively and charmingly, but also be incredibly poignant and poetic. And I love that combination. You know, I admire all kinds of stuff, but when people can combine the whole range of emotions and do it well, that really speaks to me. And so as a teenager and young adult, the Prine stuff really was formative for me. In it gave me something where I said, I don't know that I'll ever be able to write like that. And I don't know that I'm a very good singer, but this guy is doing something that I can at least aspire to. It seemed, if not achievable, at least attemptable. Whereas there's some people, I was never going to be Robert Plant, you know, like I was never going to be the lead singer for a stadium arena rock band.
Right.
But I heard Prine and I said, that's the guy who makes me feel things. And he just seems like he's being himself. And if I can accomplish that for myself, who knows what will come out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you listen to him and he's like just talking to you. So
he was remarkable, really, truly remarkable writer and personality. And I admired him greatly and miss him.
Yeah, we were lucky we had him here in 2019, just a couple of years ago, and it was lucky that we saw him when we did. So
yeah, and he was just peaking in a lot of ways, career wise. He was growing. He was at the peak of his career, which is incredible. You know, so I'm glad he got to at least I glad he got to see that before he passed. Like that's something not many people get to do, is go out on top.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of going out, not necessarily on top, you have a song called "Help Me Remember," which obviously addresses Alzheimer's. And as we all get older, we're all thinking about stuff like that and how we're going to face those days when we're in our 80s and 90s. So what prompted you to write that?
Can you help me remember who it is that I used to be? Can you tell me the story of my family, my hopes and my dreams? Did I try to stand for something? Would I always fold? Did I do things when I was young to be proud of when I was old? Was I a house on fire, or was I just a slow burning ember? Could you please help me remember?
Yeah, I was inspired. My grandfather struggled with dementia a bit before he passed. And I was in his town. I lived in Houston and he was in Waco, which is about in Texas. It's about 3 hours apart. And I was visiting him. I think I was 14 and we were in his pickup truck at a stoplight, and he turned to me and asked me where we were. And I had no idea. And I was scared, and it looked like he was scared. And that has always stuck with me, that this is the town he knew like the back of his hand, and all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Yep.
And so I had this title idea, and I wasn't quite sure how to use it. I was either thinking about using it for something about like with my grandfather, or making it about a couple who's going through some hard times and needed one of them asking the other to remind them why they were together and what they were about, and which I still think would be a cool song. But I chose the former for this one, and just started. I wrote it with Josh Morningstar, and we just tried to get inside the head and write this song from the point of view of somebody who's struggling with their memories, and it was also about having a witness to your life, whether that's a spouse or a child or friends or whatever it is, someone that can tell you who you are and where you've been and what you've done, and that's important regardless of your mental state, but particularly for people I think who are struggling with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Right. Was it a good time making this record?
It was, yeah. I did. I mean, first of all, I got to work with my wife, which is really really a cool thing for me creatively, to be able to, and a luxury to have somebody I can communicate with and connect with, and that is so good at helping me articulate my vision. In the studio. I'm pretty caveman. I get in there and I'm like, I want more drum and make it louder. And she can say, well, I think what you mean is you're looking for the guitar tone on Sticky Fingers. Right. And she'll play it. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what. And so then we can share it with the musicians, and they can have some idea of where we're going rather than just me banging on the walls. And so it's really cool. And then Kenny's one of the great guitar players in the world. He plays with Bonnie Raitt and Kenny Chesney, and has played with countless other people, and is truly just exceptional. And so it was sort of, I had everything I needed musically and creatively and personally in the studio. And then we went into Sound Emporium here in Nashville, a really iconic studio that a million records have been made at. Right. And we tracked everything pretty quickly. I think we were only there for 2 days. Jeez. And then we went to Kenny's, has a home studio. Right. And we holed up there for a while, and I was able to do all my vocals there and some guitar overdubs and stuff. And then we ended up recording 2 or 3 songs in their entirety. Right. At his place, because we liked what we got later on in the process better than what we'd started with. Beautiful.
Well, thank you for making it. So it's your 8th album, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Are you thinking already, or in terms of what you're going to do next, or are you just anxious to get out there and play the songs?
Yeah, I'm already starting to set some ideas aside and trying to find some time to go dive into them. I'm really enjoying the process of writing these days. It used to be a bit of a chore, right? Like I wanted to be a songwriter, and I loved the romantic idea of being a songwriter. I just didn't particularly enjoy writing.
Well, that's a problem.
It's work, I don't think there are many. I think most writers, it's a challenge. It's a struggle to go do it, to sit down at the desk and put away all the good times and the distractions and do the digging and the editing and the work that goes into writing a song.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was not my strong suit as a younger man. And still isn't, but I'm getting better at it. And I do take a lot more pride in my craft and the things that I put out into the world. So I've got a lot of ideas going on. I'm really excited about this record, and I'm thrilled to get it out there, and I'm looking forward to touring it. And but it is that kind of thing where I'm trying to look ahead. I mean, I want to be present too, and it's a lot of fun to go out and the crowds are singing along to the new songs, which makes me feel really good to the first week it was out, we're having audiences sing along. It's really special. So I'm enjoying that and trying to be present for it, but I'm also excited about what's to come. It's I haven't been this into the writing part of things in a long time, and it feels really good.
Cool. Well, thank you for spending this time talking to me and telling me about it. It's been fantastic, and hopefully you'll come down here again and get a chance to sing for us. We'd love to hear you. So,
well, it's been my pleasure, and I would love to come back.
All right.
I would love to come back. I had a great time when I was there last, and I really look forward to getting back soon.
Excellent. Well, enjoy your time on the road. I assume you'll be back, and have a good holiday. Thanksgiving's coming around.
Will do. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.